Hey, this is Nick Bogacz with Caliente Pizza and Draft House, and if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my friend, Scott Ferguson.
Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson, and I have the pleasure to bring to you an interview I did with my good buddy, Nick Bogacz. He is the founder of Caliente Pizza and Draft House. It's up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I know it's kind of crazy that you would think somebody is going to interview a pizza guy, but I'll tell you what, his story is inspiring. His story will move you. He had the doldrums and fought demons in his life. He has a solid family support that got him through. He's going to give you some serious knowledge nuggets about getting unstuck, or if you're fighting your own demons. He's going to give you knowledge nuggets of setting huge goals and always leveling up. So without further ado, here's my interview with my friend, Nick Bogacz. Hey, Time to Shine podcast squad. It's Scott Ferguson, and I got a friend of mine from up north in Pittsburgh that makes the best pies in town. And I cannot wait to introduce you to Nick Bogacz. Did you know that Americans consume an average of 350 pizza slices every second, with 3 billion pizzas sold in the U.S. every year? Well, our president and founder of Caliente Pizza and Draft House, Nick Bogacz, he's also the host of the Business Equation podcast, author of the Pizza Equation, member of the World Pizza Champions team, keynote speaker, and extreme team builder. Wow, that's some serious credentials. So, Nick, I'm going to bring you on here and introduce yourself to the Time to Shine podcast squad, and also tell us your favorite color and why.
Thanks, Scott. I'm glad to be here. I'd have to say my favorite color is green because it means go.
Go. I love it. And so tell us a little bit about your origins. I mean, you're a pretty big hitter up there in Pittsburgh. You just told me you kind of compete with Primanti brothers. Tell us your origins of getting started as a young tyke and working your way up through we'll call it the pizza business, if you will.
Sure, absolutely. So I started off when I was 17. I was washing cars, and my buddy was delivering pizzas, and he said, "Hey, I'm making way more tips than you." So I said, "Okay, I've got to try this pizza delivery thing," and I just fell in love with the team atmosphere of it. But my first Friday on the job, I wrecked my car, and thought that might be short-lived, but my mother let me borrow her car, and I started delivering again. And then about 3 months later, I wrecked another car. And, being a young 17-year-old kid, and I said I just love the pizza business because always being a sports fan and active in sports, and I have 2 younger brothers, and I was always the skinny kid, which amounts to one thing, and that's coach. So I was always the coach of their sports teams, and they were fairly good and always active. So I was learning a lot of young leadership values at an early age, and I didn't even realize it, coaching their floor hockey teams and baseball teams and stuff like that. And then falling in love with the team atmosphere of the pizza business, and then working my way up to a manager. And then you fast forward to about 20, when I was 20 years old, and I found out I was going to have a kid. And my wife and I, we at that time, my girlfriend and I, we got married, and I decided if I'm going to do pizza full time, I've got to move up to management jobs. So I left the place I was at for 4 years and got a general manager's position, and cut my teeth there for a while. And then found out about at 22, we're going to have another kid. So I was like, all right, I got to, yeah, right. And I, just a young kid, you know what I mean? Just like growing up. And that was a lot of it. And at the same time, I didn't go to college. I became a shift leader at, I think, like maybe 18. So I kept saying, well, what do I need to go to this college thing for? I'm a manager at 18. I've got, I know everything. And that really was the start of the pizza business. And then I worked my way all through the big guys, the Papa John's, the Domino's. I found out early on when I had the 2 kids that we were at this Papa John's in Pittsburgh. There was only 4 in Pittsburgh, and there was 10 in Ohio, and it was part of a franchise group. And we would drive out to Ohio once a month for this meeting. And every time you go to the meeting, the 4 Pittsburgh guys would drive out in a car together. We get there and they'd say, hey, Art Youngstown's up 10%, clap for Art. The next time they'd say, Joe from Ashtabula is up 15%, clap for him. And then this would go on every single meeting. That's what our meetings were like. And what happened was one of these meetings we're driving up, the guys who are all older than me, and they said to me, they said, hey, the supervisor's talking about firing you because your oven's dirty, your walls are dirty. And I'm thinking, man, I'm working like 90 hours a week. I've got 2 kids at home. This job means everything to me. That's when I had an epiphany that sales fixes everything. So I read the Guerrilla Marketing book by Jay Levinson, and I can't say that anything in particular stuck out to me, but the mentality did. So we go to the next meeting, and they say, hey, Nick in Pittsburgh's up 10%, clap for Nick. The next meeting, Nick's up 20%, clap for Nick. The next meeting, Nick's up 45%. Nick, tell everybody what the hell you're doing. And really what it was is I went to the school board, and I talked the school board into having school lunches. I talked to the PTA for the football games and got in the concession stand selling pizzas, got into the basketball stadium selling pizzas, and really just was selling. The strategy was where can I sell the most pizzas at once? And that's what I was going after. So after that got built up, Domino's took notice of me, and I said, look, I don't want to go anywhere. I've got all these record weeks and everything. And Domino's was pretty persistent. They gave me a business card. The business card burned a hole in my pocket. And for the next 5 years, I worked for Domino's. And they moved me out to Wilkes-Barre, which Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh's on the east side or on the west side of the state. And Wilkes-Barre is on the northeast side, which is about 5 hours away. It might as well be another state. And I cut my teeth out there. And I was there till I was about 27. We were there for a year. And I like to say in the beginning, I would say that we got homesick and that's why we moved back. But the real truth of it is at that point I had a real bad drug and alcohol addiction. And my wife moved back home, took our 2 kids, and I was left there with, I quit the job because I was moving back home. And I said, all right, so I've got no job, no kids, no wife, no car because she took the one car we had and I didn't even have a cell phone. And, it was one of those moments I had that it was like, I've got to change everything. And, over the next few months, I moved back. I got counseling, found the right room, and I could say in October will be 15 years clean and sober.
Congratulations, Nick.
Thank you. So then get a lot of pressures once I moved back and trying to, fix up my relationship with my wife, and we're going to celebrate 20 years here in July.
Excellent.
And, so everything worked out perfect, but it was one of those things where everybody – when you work in a pizza business or in the restaurant business, a lot of times you get dogged with you don't have a real job. And that's definitely what I was getting dogged with right then. And I always was that guy who worked 80, 90 hours a week, and that was a lot of it. And when I came back, I went for a gig selling radio advertising. And, I had a great question that I love for interviews. And it's when they ask you, do you have any more questions left? I love to ask, yes, is there any reason you wouldn't hire me? I think that's a great question.
Sure.
And she said, well, yeah, you're in the pizza business and we don't know why we would hire you to sell radio. And then I started telling her about all the school board meetings I went to and how I sold pizzas for school lunches. And she's like, oh, if you can sell pizza like that, sure, you can sell radio. So for the next 6 months, I sold radio and I just hated it. I hated anybody that can do cold calling. I bless them up. I just can't do it. And I said, you know what? I want to get back into pizzas, and I started delivering at a buddy's of mine. I went full circle, started delivering, and then he had 2 shops. So I started delivering at 2 shops. Then I was delivering at a 3rd shop. This is probably 2007 to 2009, 10-ish. And so I'm working about 70, 80 hours a week delivering pizzas. Made enough to buy a house for $170,000 just from delivering pizzas. Love it. And, just working. And then I was getting a lot more pressures about getting that real job again. And I took the mailman post office test and I passed and I became a mailman. And this is like about 2009. Right. And I kept it's kind of a crazy story, and I'm trying to tell it kind of quick for you, but there's a lot to it. And then what happened in 2009 was I started delivering the mail, but I also kept my 3 delivery jobs. And because it was like part-time, sometimes it was 20 hours a week to mail, sometimes it was 50, it all depended. So when I was working at the post office, a guy said to me, hey, you seem reliable. Would you like to count money in the Civic Arena where the Pittsburgh Penguins play, be in the count room and count all the money at night? And I said, yeah, sure. I don't do anything at night. So then I had 5 jobs. I had those 5 jobs for the next three years. I worked 80, 90 hours a week, 5 jobs a week, 5, just crazy. And then what happened was the Papa John's that I was at delivering pizza said, hey, we know that we have a reputation as a sales builder and a quick fixer, and we want you to run our store. And they actually were going to fire my friend he was still with Papa John's from when we went to these meetings back in 2001. And I said, there's no way I'm going to take his job. I don't,
Right.
Just not going to do it. He's my friend. And fast forward like 9 months after they replaced him, they came to me and said, we're going to replace the guy who replaced him. And I said, well, he's not my friend. So I said, sure, I'll take the general manager's job. But look, I'll quit my other 4 jobs, I guess, at the time, but I'll keep the post office job. And you can never tell me how many hours I can work, because I can't work 80, 90 hours a week. I am working 40 at the post office. I'll put in 40 here, but nobody can ever say you're not working enough. And they're like, that's fine. So I took over the store. It was there 22 years, never did $1 million in sales. My first year, we did $1 million in sales.
Wow.
It was doing $27,000 in profit. I took it to $147,000 in profit.
Where was that at?
The Papa John's that runs Carnegie Mellon and University of Pitt. So in like the Oakland section of
Sure.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So that's like 2011, 2012, right around there. And I go to them and I say, hey, look, if you can pay me, somewhere in between what I'm making at the 2 jobs, I'll never leave Papa John's. I'll quit the post office. I'll be here forever. And they're like, Nick, they were guys that owned like 4 Papa John's, 7 Arby's, 8 Taco Bells, and a ton of other stuff. Like they were businessmen, numbers guys. That was it.
Right.
And they said, look, if you leave, we're going to sell it. We can't pay you above the industry standard. So that's when I was like, I've got to go do my own thing. I don't know why it's pizza, but that's what I'm good at. And the one thing I did know was I loved pizza. And I figured, you know what, if I'm going to do this forever, I have to do it for myself. So I started walking into pizza shops in Pittsburgh and I said, sell me your pizza shop. And they would say, get the hell out of here. The 5th guy I walked into said, there's a shop over in Bloomfield and, it's for sale. And I said, okay. So I walked in and it was a full bar. And I said, oh man, what the heck? It's a bar. And I walked in the back and all I wanted was a pickup and delivery pizza shop. And I walked in the back, full pizza kitchen, everything we needed. And then we sat down and, I really didn't have any money. That was the whole thing. Like I got really, probably about 2010, 2011, I got really big into the law of attraction. And I read like crazy. I'm a very avid reader. And I'm one of those readers that I read a book. And if there's something mentioned in the book, like another book, I go ahead and I start reading the other book. Like, I'll finish it, but I'm ordering on Amazon like the next book.
Right.
And I kept hearing about Think and Grow Rich. And I said, what the heck is this book? So when I read that, everything changed. And that's how I just, I started to have a whole different mentality and outlook on everything. And so here I am finding a place to buy with literally 3 donuts on a car and the windows don't even roll down. So they said to me, well, I'll tell you what, they said, you look like you got the right reputation. And I told them about everything I've done and how many hours I worked. They said, why don't you save up what you can from working, owning the place for 9 months. At the end of the 9 months, give it to us. And then we'll finance the rest over 5 years on a handshake.
Wow.
We didn't have anything signed for those 9 months. It was all handshake. And I went in and I just worked like crazy. My wife, her kids were a little older. They were like 12 and 10 at the time. So my wife went ahead and she worked the front. I worked the back. The store did like $6,000 a week. And, we're going to be a $10 million company this year. So 8 years later.
Wow. And how many locations do you have now? Is it
we
the
have
one or
5 and we're going on 6.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yep.
So are lenders and people, financiers coming to you more now and being like, hey, let's do this?
Oh, absolutely. It's night and day, in the beginning, I couldn't get anybody it was hard to even get bank accounts, but now it's like lines of credit or there's a lot of deals where what I've tried to do is exactly what I did with the first one. Go in there and try and go to a place that somebody's having issues. They want to get out. I'm looking for their weakness that, whether they bought it for their nephew and he doesn't want to run it anymore, or hate to say it, but there was a guy who had 3 heart failures and he just wanted to sell his place. So you're getting it a better deal. And we just go in and flip them, and we're flipping them in like 7 days, or pardon me, 2 weeks.
Sure.
And then once we get in there, we just turn it into our brand and we just go. And I've had real estate investors come at me and they'll show me, hey, here's some prime spots, because a lot of our spots are like off the beaten path a little bit. But through advertising and marketing, I'm able to draw people and become a destination. So it doesn't make sense for me to, if we're paying $44,000 or $4,500 for rent, it doesn't make sense for me to go to a place that they'll say this is prime. It's $12,000 a month, but we'll go ahead and give you $300,000 for a build out, and you have a 10-year lease. And I'm more comfortable taking over giving somebody maybe $150,000 for all their equipment, pay that off over the next 5 years, and then have rent for $4,500. And I've 5 out of the 6 deals now I've done with some money down, and then the owner has financed the rest.
Oh, that's really leveling up. So tell me where the Caliente name came from then.
Okay, so the first store that I bought, it was a Turkish guy and an Indian guy owned the restaurants, who I am dear friends with till today. They owned a bunch of Cricket wireless stores, and they just decided that they wanted to focus on their Cricket wireless stores. And it was a pretty awesome story on their part, because they had, I think, 9 stores between the two of them 8 years ago, and they're up over like 80 stores now. So they made the right move to get out of what wasn't their niche and then get into their niche and really go hard. But the Turkish guy, I kept saying to him, like, hey, why is it called Caliente? Because it was Caliente Pizza and Bar. It was open 9 months. And he kept laughing. And then, a few weeks later, I said, no, really, why is it Caliente? And he said, in Turkey, the #1 strip club is called Caliente.
No way. That's amazing. That's a crazy origin.
Right?
That's fantastic. So, I know you said your wife's really supportive, but you went through a lot of seasons, we like to call it here in Time to Shine, where your kind of life went up and down. And so your wife is very supportive. You were working the 5 jobs, you were paying your bills, probably exceeding a little bit, but what was your family's take on the choice to go out? I mean, the initial, I know that she worked the front and everything. Was she just like, all right, Nick, yeah, let's go do it? Or was she like, whoa, like how did that go down? I'm like to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Sure. So her dad always had his own car dealership, and he had a convenience store. So she grew up with the entrepreneur's mindset. Okay. I grew up in, my mom was a stay-at-home, or was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a salesman. So I grew up in more of a, my dad wouldn't work 9 to 5, and a few times a week he'd have to stay over or something, or work a little later. But that was in the weekends. We always had the weekends to do whatever. And my wife had this, like I said, they were always at the business working. So she always had that entrepreneur mindset, and she was really the one that was like that. Would always push me, and she still does to this day. And I think she definitely, even it was hard to say, because I'm working 5 jobs and 80, 90 hours a week, and I can't even begin to tell you all the things that I missed.
I bet.
Just crazy stuff, communions, birthday parties. People would say to her all the time, like, do you even have a husband? And, she knew that there was a bigger picture. And I think she has always believed in me. And that was what it takes. You really need that person beside you that believes in you. And that was it. And sure, there were times that were really tough that, she would tell me that she needed me for this or that. And it was tough because the communication of not seeing each other. But that's where the delivering pizzas was nice, because I could hop on the phone and talk to her for, a while you're delivering pizzas and stuff too. So it was like, it worked for us. But it was like, I think everybody else, like, everybody always pushed me to get that real job. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think anyone understood that it was a real job, and it is a real job. And like now it's, I think a lot of people were kind of amazed of what I've done with, or what we've done with what we've earned, I guess.
Yeah,
it's really,
absolutely. Your journey is amazing.
Yeah, it's been a great journey, and I think a lot of people have been really surprised by it. But once the family was supportive, though, once they were there and they saw what we were doing, I think they were just really supportive. I think, sure, they were worried that I was going to fail, but in my mind, I was like, I've worked so hard for this moment.
Sure.
I don't care if I got to live here for the next 5 years. Like, it's going to work. That was my mindset.
That's amazing. Tell me about the pizza equation, your book.
Sure. So Yeah, so I've always wanted to write a book. Like I said, I love to read. I really do. Like I love the podcast. If I'm in my car, I'm always got a podcast or maybe a book on even, but I'm always listening to something. But I just really enjoy reading. So I've always wanted to tell my story. And I decided probably about 2 years ago now that I wanted to write a book. So I thought it was going to be what I've learned along this journey is a lot of times what you think and what happens is completely night and day. So I thought I could hire somebody and kind of just give them all my thoughts and they can kind of ghostwrite it. That was kind of my thought. So I had a meeting with a lady going to write an operation manual for Caliente. And the way she pitched me to write the operation manual was she showed me her book that she wrote. And I was like, you wrote a book? She's like, yeah. I was like, I want to write a book. I was like, can you help me write my book? And she was like all taken back, really wanted me to do the operations manual, but I pushed more on the book. And she basically said, yeah, I'll help you. So she would come in, record me. And then after she recorded me, she'd type up some pages of the book. And I just didn't like it at all. It wasn't me. It was, sure. I just couldn't do it. And I said, all right, if I'm serious about this, I'm going to write the book. So, I'm real big on how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So every Thursday when everybody went to bed, I sat down and I wrote till I was tired. And a year later, I had a book. The same lady that helped me start gave me her publisher or her editor rather. And I sent everything to her and she said, yeah, you have a book. Let me help you put it in order. And then we edited for probably another 5 to 6 months. And then last February, March, right around there, we put out the Pizza Equation. And for anybody out there that's ever thought to write a book, it is a great experience. It's a great journey.
I'm in the middle of mine now. So
are you?
Yeah,
it's great.
It's awesome. It's fantastic.
Yeah. What's really cool about it is you never know where it's going to take you and what opportunities you're going to get from it.
Right.
I did a book signing where I did 1,000 books. I did endless amount of speaking from the book that I wrote. Lots of, from the book, I was on so many podcasts. It was like, I was promoting the book nonstop.
Right.
And I was on these podcasts and I said, you know what? I really enjoy the podcast. And I said, I think I'm going to start my own. So I called it the Business Equation. So now I'm, almost 30 episodes into the Business Equation podcast. And, it's just been a great journey. The book was fantastic to write. It's available on Amazon. I do a lot of speaking at different pizza expos and restaurant expos, and it's nice to, instead of handing a business card out, I can hand my book out, and I think it goes
That's
a long
fantastic.
way.
Yeah, it definitely gives you some street cred when it comes to that. Nick, what would you, if you had to write a letter or go back in time and talk to your 21-year-old Nick, what would you tell him?
That's a good question. I think the thing is I always look back at everything I've done and I wonder, what would I really change? And I think a lot of the struggle I went through gave me the mentality that whatever it takes, I wouldn't fail. Because what it was is when we started Caliente, there was a point where I was like, how would I be successful? And I thought the way that I would be successful is if I could buy a car from this century, move into a bigger house, and be able to figure out how the heck I'm going to pay for my kids' college. And then what happened was after that first year Caliente, I built it up so much that I realized I'm going to be able to do those things no problem. So I was like, okay, well, how do I be successful now? What does that really mean to me? And what it became to mean to me was so I wanted to say what it came to mean to me was when my employees and the people who work for me can do those things. When they can do those things for their families that I want to do, whatever their dreams and desires are, they can do that from the career that I'm providing them. That's how I'll know when I'm successful. So to flip it back and say, what would I tell my 21-year-old self? I think it would be real simple. Just stay in the fight, and just keep going at it.
Yeah.
And, I don't know really. There's very, very little regret. It was so many ups and downs and a lot of growing up. And I think that was a lot of it was everybody matures at a different age. And I really think the 20s are just such a hard age. And, for the kids that I call them kids, but for the guys and girls in their 20s that get it and that they're into, growing themselves, more power to them. Like they've got, head and shoulders above the rest of us. But, I really didn't figure self-growth out till, probably almost like 30, like 28,
Yeah.
29. And that's been the difference.
Our generation, Nick, was like that though, where, we were seen and not heard, and we, there was no timeout. It was knockout with our parents. You know what I'm saying? So we never had that, where freedom to these kids have today. They don't know how good they really have it. And I love, like you just said, the ones that are out there grinding and moving forward, that's fantastic. Let me ask you something. What is Nick's definition of a life well lived?
I think a life well lived, starts with, it's almost like the same thing as asking what's success. It's sure those things are business wise, but I think living a happy life, like it's all levels. That's what's really hard, is the balance of life. Like, if you're exceeding at your business, can you also exceed at home? What about your health? What about your hobbies? What I really try to do is try to really look at those things more on a quarterly evaluation than anything else, and kind of say, okay, what do I need to do here? And I think that's it. It's the balance that you're never going to have complete balance, because when you're working in one way, it just tilts that way. But it's remembering to go back to the spot that you're not at, because
right.
Even if you're working so hard one place in your life, you got to remember to go back to that place that you kind of left to go work hard at the other one.
Right. Like almost going back to the roots in a sense, to regroup, if you will. It's like what we like to say here at Time to Shine. Take your like a little sabbatical and just reflect.
Yes.
All right,
very important.
We're gonna move into our level up lightning round. Now, you and I could talk 15, 20 minutes on each one of these, but you got to be 5 to 7 seconds, because we're running up against time constraints. Okay. So what is the best level up advice you've ever received?
I think to work for yourself.
Awesome.
My dad said, work for yourself. Whatever you do it for yourself.
What's one of the personal habits that you have that contributes to your success?
Gratitude.
Love it. What movie taught you the most about life?
The Secret.
Love it. All right. What is your favorite charity or organization that you support?
Dream Big Honduras, Orange Arrow, and St. Jude.
Beautiful. And last question, what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
70s.
My man, we can hang out anytime. Awesome. So before we leave here, Nick, leave our Time to Shine squad with one knowledge nugget that you want them to take with them.
I think it'd be real simple. Just like I kind of mentioned before, there's all these big projects and goals that you want to do. And remember, how do you eat that elephant? It's one bite at a time. And the other part of that would be is if you find yourself unfocused, that means that you don't have a goal big enough and worthy enough to go out and get. So find a big goal, and that'll get you unstuck.
Find a big goal. That is awesome. So that is awesome. I'm writing that down. Where can we find you, Nick?
Sure. You can find me at nickbogacz.com. You can find me Instagram, Nick Bogacz Official, and you can find me pizzadrafthouse.com.
Awesome. And do you have any speaking engagements or anything that you want to share with us?
Sure. I appreciate that. I'm going to be at the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas right around April Fool's Day. And I've got 3 seminars and a workshop that I'll be doing out there.
Awesome. And then I'll get all those dates and whatnot, and I'll put them in the show notes for everybody. And so, squad, you just heard from a guy that basically started out very humble, very small, worked his way up, fought some demons with the help of his avid reading to bring him out of the doldrums, and his awesome wife and family supporting him. He has a $10 million business right now. And, we want to thank you for being raw and honest, and we love your outside the box thinking. And to get unstuck, your goal's not big enough. That's awesome, Nick. And we can tell that you're humble. We can tell that you're hungry, that you're always leveling up your health and leveling up your wealth. And now you're part of the Time to Shine squad, man. So I really, really appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me so much.
You bet, Nick. Have a great day.
Yep.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.